Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Nun Aleph in קידושין, as we learned for Fushon for Elazar ben Ruma and Yosef Ezriel ben Chaim Michal. We're about halfway down the page at the two dots, Itmar. Now, yesterday we saw the Mishnah, which said that if you makadosh a woman and her daughter or a woman and her sister at the same time, they're not mukadeshes. And we gave two reasons. The first reason is kol she'ena if you can't perform a second marriage after the first marriage. Because if you're married to a sister, to sister-in-law, you can't marry sister-in-law to a sanchal, or if you're married to a mother, you can marry a daughter, or vice versa. So if you can't do them consecutively, they don't work basachas either, and that's based on a svara. We said that's Rav svara. The pasuk is speaking about if you're married to her already, then you can't take the second one. But Rashi says that it's a svara. What Rav says is a svara. If it doesn't work consecutively, it doesn't work basachas either. That was one way to learn the Mishnah. There's another way to learn, and that is that what's called קידושין שאין מסורה לביאה. A man marries one of two sisters. Weird case, but it can happen. A certain man has, let's say, two daughters, ages 9 and 10. And another guy says, I like your daughters, I want to marry one of them. I'll marry one of them. Okay, and he gives the father קידושין. Remember the קידושין? Father gets the קידושין up to the age of 12 and a half. So the rule is that a קידושין or not? I'm marrying one of them. He didn't say which one. Neither of them said which one. So what's the deal? Is it because, you can't now sleep with either one because maybe you're really married to her sister. That's called קידושין שאין מסורה לביאה. So here we're at the two dots on Nun Aleph and Aleph, halfway down the page. Itmar, קידושין שאין מסורה לביאה. This question, קידושין that cannot be consummated. Abai says it is a good קידושין. Rava love a קידושין. So if you learn like Rava, so Rava could explain the Mishnah both because of or Rava's other svara is קידושין is not chal at all. If it's a קידושין that can't be consummated, I married one of your two daughters. It's not clear which one, so I can't sleep with either one. So the קידושין is not a קידושין at all. Abai says it is a good קידושין, except you don't know who you're married to. So what do you have to do? Give them both a get. What else can you do? They don't know who they're married. Neither one of them know who's married to this guy, and this guy doesn't know who he's married to. Abai says, is it קידושין? Rabbi says it's not a קידושין. That's the machlokas we learned about today. קידושין שאין מסורה לביאה is a קידושין or not? As we'll see, this is one of the 6 cases in Shas where we pass like Abai. Usually in machlokas Abai Rabba we go like Rabba. This is one of the cases of Ya'al Kagam. The acronym Ya'al Kagam is for the 6 cases, and the Kuf in Kagam is this case of קידושין שאין מסורה לביאה. And we're going to paskin like Abaye that it is a good קידושין. Doesn't seem logical, right? You can't sleep with either one of them because you don't know who you're married to, right? So give them both a get. According to Abaye, that it is a good קידושין, but you don't know who you're married to. You have to give them both a get. So that's the question. And then they're both usher. Then they're both usher. Going. You can't remarry either one of them. Okay, let's understand if he's a Cohen or not a Cohen.
Doesn't matter. They're both usher anything.
They're both usher. Why? Because sachos kushaso. Right. Even if he's not a Kohen, either one you can. If he knew that he was married to one and he's not a Kohen and he gets divorced, he can marry her again if she wasn't married to somebody else in between. But over here, each one is a chos kushaso, which is also usher. So therefore, he can't marry either one. So Itmar קידושין שאין Abai says a קידושין. Rava says like this. Amar Rava. So Rava says it's not a קידושין. He says, what's the svara? Barahina Asberli. This fellow, Barahina, this rabbi explained it to me. What's it based on? If a man takes a wife, gives her a kesef kedushin, we learn to stay from, and he consummates the marriage with her. So it means that it's got to be that way. What is the case of kedushin? When does kedushin work? Kedushin, I'm sure if it can be consummated, have a kedushin. Based on that pasuk, very simple. If you marry somebody, you got to be able to consummate. If you can't consummate, it's not a kedushin. That's his svara. Okay. What about our Mishnah? Does our Mishnah prove against Rava or for against Rava or for Rava? It's not. Our Mishnah said she should be to marry a woman and her daughter. Simultaneously. How does it work simultaneously? The best way is that they signed the shliach, right? They signed the shliach and you signed the shliach. Very simple. And your shliach gave קידושין for both of them at the same time, simultaneously, with the same $100 or $100 coin, whatever. Oisha b'achosa ka'achas eina mukudeshes, not kedushin. Ha'achas mishah, ha'achas meisha bito o meisha b'achosa mukudeshes. The Mishnah says if you marry them both simultaneously, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Mashma that if you marry one out of the two, maybe it would work. Just as if you try to marry both of them simultaneously, that can work. As we know, it can't work one after the other. You can't marry a daughter after you're married to a mother. You can't marry a mother after you're married to a daughter. You can't marry a sister after you're married to her sister. Right? That doesn't work. Okay. And we said, Kol she'ena b'zachas she'ena b'asachas doesn't work b'asachas. But let's say I'm not marrying two of them. I'm marrying one out of the two. I didn't specify which one. How does it work? Doesn't she know who she accepted the קידושין for? The father accepted the קידושין. Says, okay, one of my daughters will be married to you. We'll work it out later. Something like that. No good. So, it is Mukudesh, it's a Kasha and Rava, but my קידושין Sumabia. It's mashma in our Mishnah. Only if you marry them both simultaneously, then it doesn't work. Just like consecutively, the second one wouldn't work. Mashma, if you know, you didn't marry two of them. You only married one out of the two. You just don't know which ones. Mashma would be good. Tifta the Rav Skasham Rava. So from the Mishnah, it's if you're medayik the Mishnah that way, then it's a Kasham Rava. He said if you marry them both simultaneously, it's no good. Nashma one out of the two would work. It's a Kasham Rava. Rava says if you marry one out of the two and you don't know which one, it's not clear. It's not Masur and Labiyah, and therefore it wouldn't be Kedushin. Mishnah it's Mashma. It is Kedushin. Amalcha Rava will say, you think this is a Kasha on me? Well, Tamech, let's look at the Seifa. Aim a Seifa. The Seifa says, Mice, remember the story of the Chamesh Hashem, was marrying 5 women simultaneously. Among the 5 women, 3 were non-related to one another, or to him, or to the other 2. And there were 2 sisters among them. And this guy went and gathered a basket full of figs. It was there, and therefore it was Hefker, and he acquired it. And he said, all right, you're all married to me with this basket of figs. The Chacham said, the sisters aren't married at all. Why? Because you're trying to marry 2 sisters simultaneously. The sisters aren't married. But mashma, the other 3 women are married to this slave. And now, how did he say it? Right? If he said, listen, I'm acquiring all of you together, then there's a rule of what's called at v'chamorhu, at chamor lokana. If you give something, so I give something to you and to the donkey. Can the donkey acquire something? No, it's like it's a lashon. Example is that's an example, but Rashi explains the real case is I'm giving something. A man is maybe on his deathbed, and he has a child, and he also has a unborn child. His wife is pregnant, and he says, "Okay, I'm splitting my assets between my unborn child and my born child." An unborn child has no rights, cannot acquire anything. That's like I'm giving it to you and to the donkey. In which case, neither acquires it, because I'm saying I'm giving everything to you 2 guys, you and you. So if one doesn't work, the other one doesn't work. So that's what he's saying over here too. He says, I'm marrying all five of yous, right? All 5 of you, I'm marrying all 5 of you, but 2 of them can't be married to him, right? Because you can't marry them simultaneously. So then none of them should work. Why does the Mishnah say, it says over there, the Chum said, the sisters aren't married, right? But the other 3 are. Why? He said it all together. All of you should be married to me. It's mashma. That's like you and the chamor. If I can't give it to you and to the unborn child, that mean I can't give it to you either because I said it all together. It's one deal. It's one package deal. I'm giving it to you and to you. And if the second you can't acquire it, the first one doesn't either. So here too, if he said all of you are married to me in that way, then none of them should be married since the 2 sisters can't. Elalav at the top of Amid Beis now. Elalav the Amalu Achas Mikem. He said one of you. Meaning, what do you mean Achas Mikem? The Labat the Chamor didn't care to look at it. It's not like that. You married one of you, not all of them. And as I married the 3 non-married ones, and he said, out of the 2 sisters, one of you, not married at all. That's a proof to Rava. That's a proof to Rava. What did Rava say? That if I marry one out of 2 sisters and you don't know which one, it's קידושין she'eina Masur Labiyah, it's not a קידושין. Well, why isn't it the קידושין? If he says I'm marrying the three others and one out of the 2 of the sisters, according to Abaya, it is a good קידושין, except you don't know which one. Fine, so give them both a get. But it doesn't say that. It says that the sisters are not married at all. That's a proof to Rava that if it's קידושין she'eina Masur Labiyah, not a קידושין at all. So the Rava kasha Reisha. The Rava, the Reisha is difficult. Why? Because the Reisha said if you marry two sisters simultaneously, it's no good. It's mashma if they married one out of the two, even though I don't know which one's which, it would be a kedushin. That's a kasha Rava. Abaye kasha seifa. Abaye says that kedushin shem sum is a kedushin. Mashma the seifa. Otherwise, the mission the seifa is mashma where he said I'm marrying the three non-married ones, the three non-related ones, and one out of the two sisters. Because if he said I'm marrying all of you, and you can't marry the sisters and the other two, then nobody should be married to him. So it's mashma, but he said I'm marrying all of you, all three of you, and of the other two, I'm marrying one out of the two. And the Chum said that it's not married at all. It's mashma like Rava that kedushin shem is not a kedushin at all. So we have a kasha. So we say the Rava kasha Reisha, the Abaye kasha Seifa. So the Gemara says on the third line, Abaye metatzah may Rava metatzah. Each one will explain the Mishnah according to his reasoning. Abaye metatzah Abaye explains according to his reasoning. Hamakadosh isha ubita. What does Mishnah say? You marry a woman and her daughter simultaneously. O isha v'chosa ke'achas simultaneously. Ein mekudashos. Ha'achas me isha ubita. What does Abaye say? If you marry one out of the two, me isha v'chosa mekudashos, like Abaye who says that if kedushin sheinim m'sur l'bia, I marry one out of two sisters. I don't know which one I'm married to. It's kedushin sheinim m'sur l'bia, but it is a good kedushin, so you have to give them both a divorce because you don't know who you're married to. The Im Amar, if he said Harauya Labiyat the Scottishly then even Abaye's mode, he says, listen, I'm marrying one out of the two, but only if she's fit to marry, if she's fit to have beer with me, meaning you marry one out of two and you didn't specify which one, then you can't have beer with either one because maybe it's a chos. Ishto, you don't know what to do. So that's how Abaye will explain the Mishnah. You know, the Abaye will say, yeah, simultaneously doesn't work, but one out of them would work. But if he said one out of two of you and I have to be able to have beer with you, then it's also Ein Mekudeshes. So my Sinami v'chamesh nashim, that was the story of chamesh nashim, ben shtei achayos, v'liket echai kilku shalteinim, the guy gathered the basket of figs, v'amar ruyali mikem, he said, whoever's roy out of the two of you, who owes roy to me to Scottishly, meaning he could have said a ruya out of all of them, right? Out of all of them, the three that are not related are roy to him. But out of the two, whichever is roy for me to have beer with, because since he said, one out of the two, he said, you're married to me again, not simultaneously. He said, one out of two of you, but it's got to be Roy for Bia, and you don't know which one it is, then none of them are married. That's how Abaye will explain the Mishnah, although it's a little bit of a stretch. Rava Matas Tameh, we're at the first of the wide lines now on the Nalfim days. Rava Matas Tameh, Mekashi should be Achas, Meisha Bita. Rava will explain the Mishnah at the beginning of the Mishnah as saying effectively that if you marry one out of the two, not that if you marry simultaneously. He says, Amakadesh achas meishabit, if you marry one out of a mother and a daughter, or achas meishachos, or one out of two sisters, it's as if as if you married them simultaneously, because again, Rava holds that is not a kedushin. The story with the chamesh nashim, the guy went and gathered the figs in a basket for Amar, and he said, and he said, all of you, and one out of the two sisters are married to me, right? In other words, when he marries one out of two sisters, it didn't be where he tried to marry the two sisters simultaneously. He married one out of the two sisters. According to Rava, it's not married at all. Why? Because according to Rava, kedushin she'eino masur l'bia, a kedushin which cannot be consummated. Why can't it be consummated? Because you don't know who you're married to. So you might be sleeping with her mother or her daughter or her sister, and it's not a kedushin at all. So again, each one of them is a little bit of a stretch, but the Pashim shot is that the Reisha is mashma like Abaye, and the Seif is mashma like Rava. So each will explain it in their own way, like we said, and that's why it works out according to each one. So we still have this machlok between Abaye and Rava. A man marries off one of his daughters to another guy, and the other guy doesn't know who he's married to. Is it a kedushin? According to Abaye, it's a kedushin. You'd have to give them both a get because nobody knows who they're married to. According to Rava, no kedushin, no get is necessary because they're not married at all. Yeah. Tashma, Hamakadosh is bito stam. Marrying off his daughter stam. He didn't say which daughter. Man has several. Maybe he has more than one daughter. So he marries off his daughter. Now we've learned that until what age can a man marry off his daughter? Until what age must the daughter be? Up until the age of 12 and a half. Beyond that, he has no rishus over her. A man can't say to go to his 14-year-old daughter, or whatever, 20-year-old daughter, and say, "I married you off to somebody." He has no rights over her. She's her own person now. She's an adult. So Tashma Makash Spitos. Now let's say he married off his daughter Stam. He didn't say which one. Ain't a bogus beglal. The bogros, the ones who were 12 and a half already, they're not included. He has no rights to marry her off. So there's no question that any daughter that he had over 12 and a half is not in the mix at all. Haktanos b'chal, it's mashma that the ktanos, the young daughters that he has, are included. Even though he just said married off his daughter. Makash Spitos Stam. He didn't say which daughter. He didn't say which one. It's mashma. They're all included, meaning that you have to be concerned that any one of them could be the wife. And it's good to remind you don't know which one of his daughters is. You don't know which one of his young daughters under the age of 12 is married. So why should you say that קידושין? The older daughters over 12 and a half, yeah, they're not in the mix, but the younger ones are. Mashma would be קידושין. Why? You don't know which daughter is. The Tiftar is Kasha and Rabba, who says קידושין Shem is not a קידושין here, it's mashma, it's a קידושין. Rav will say, there's only one older daughter over the age of 12 and a half and one younger one. So if the older one's not in the mix, so you know who he married off. There's only one person who he can marry off because he only has the young daughter to marry off. So if he's married off his daughter Stam, the older one's not included. He's telling the older one's not included. The only one that he could have married off is the young one. So there's no question. It's not like he's marrying. The guy married one out of two sisters or one out of five sisters, and you don't know which one it is. There is only one. There's only a Tana, right? This is what do you mean? There's only one Gedol, one Tana. A Bo Gross Tana. It says the older ones are not included, plural. There's more than one, and therefore there will probably be more than one Tana too. It says no, my bogus Tana just means doesn't mean in this family. It just means older girls in general, over the age of 12 and a half, are not included because a father cannot marry off his daughter over the age of 12 and a half. She could send him as a shliach, as we'll see. She could say, "Please be a shliach for me," but it's her authorization, not his own. So my bogus Talmud. What's the chiddush in that? If a man has an 18-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter, and he makes a deal, the guy comes over to him, "I want to marry your daughter." Okay, I'm marrying your daughter. There's only one daughter that he can marry off a 10-year-old. What's the issue there? You're saying it's not a case of marrying one out of two sisters. It's not a case of קידושין Labia. There's only one 10-year-old. That's the only one that he can marry off. So what's the chiddush? The older girl, the 18-year-old, let's call her, she made him a shliach to find a husband for me. Dad, go find a husband for me. I authorize you to find a husband for me. Mao to say, maybe accept the קידושין for her. Yes, he only has an 18-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter. He's only authorized on his own to marry off the 10-year-old daughter. But the 18-year-old daughter assigned him to be a shliach. So you might think when he accepted קידושין from some fiance, we'll call him, from some chassan. He accepted קידושין. Maybe it was for the 18-year-old. You might think a person if he accepts the 18-year-old's קידושין, who gets the ring? Who gets the money? The 18-year-old, the girl, right? If he marries off his 10-year-old daughter, who gets the money? He does. So he says a person. So that's the chiddush over here. He's married off your daughter Stam, and you have a 10-year-old and an 18-year-old. You know what? The 10-year-old is the one who's married because the 18-year-old is not. You're not authorized, even though she made you a shliach. That's the chiddush. Maybe since she made him a shliach, maybe accept the קידושין. The answer is, person wouldn't leave something which he has no enough from, or something which he has enough from, and give it somebody else. In other words, why should he accept קידושין for the 18-year-old? The 10-year-old, he gets to keep the money. The 18-year-old, he doesn't keep the money. So probably he would marry off the 10-year-old, not the 18-year-old. Not like we would think today. Maybe the 18-year-old should get married before the 10-year-old, give her a shidduch first. But that's what the Gemara says. A person would not give up something which he has enough from for something that she wouldn't give it up. Maybe she told him, maybe the 18-year-old says, "Listen, Dad, you accept קידושין and you keep the money, you keep the ring," and then he wouldn't be losing out on anything. It's not a man is not mechuyev to marry off his 18-year-old daughter. He's mechuyev to marry off his younger daughter. The mitzvah Rashi in the first of the wide lines of Rashi near the bottom says there's a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? The chsiva says we hear that pasuk before. You should marry off your daughters. What who's he authorized to marry off? Only girls up to the age of 12 and a half. The 18-year-old is not his authorization. She's on her own, right? She's got her own apartment already. Right? She's on her own. Let her marry off herself. So therefore, that's the point. Truth is that it's not marrying one of two sisters, and we don't know who it is. And since it's a good קידושין, it's a proof to Abaye. Rava will give this answer and say no. And again, it's a little bit of a dochak answers. We'll say the Gemara's, most of these proofs are proofs against Rava. Yes, Rava did answer and say that the end of the mission is mashma like Abaye, but they each weaseled out. Now the Gemara is bringing a series of proofs to Abaye that even though it's קידושין she'ein masurim labia, it's still a קידושין. And this is what Zaykeh says, marries off Zarda Stam. The older daughters are not included. So you give an answer, no, there's only one older daughter and one younger daughter, so it's not, there's the older one's not in the mix, and there's only one daughter that he can be speaking about. That's the only one he has to marry off. That's what Rava will answer, but the Pashut Pshat is not mashma like that. Tashma, another proof against Rava. Tashma, Mishiesh Lo Shtei Kitibas. Let's look at this case. A man has been married to two wives. Call them A and B. He has two wives. He was first married to A, and A had two daughters. We'll call them number one and number two. Okay. Later on, let's say she died, and he took another wife, call her B. And then with B, he had two more daughters, 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's their birth order, right? 1 and 2. 1 was born first, then number 2 from the first wife. Then number 3 and number 4 were born to the second wife. Now, so that's the order of order. The youngest daughter that he has is number 4. The oldest daughter that he has is number 1. So here's the case. This person has two groups of daughters from A and from B, right? He has two groups. Number 1 and number 2 is the first group from the first wife. Number 3, number 4 from the second wife. From two women, as I said, from A and B. But Omar, and he said, you know what? I married off my older daughter. But I'm not sure when I said, the guy said to me, I'd like to marry your older daughter. It's okay, you're married to my older daughter. What does he mean by older daughter? Any day, I'm not sure now, in Gedolos of Gedolos, that I mean number 1, the oldest of the older group, right? The older group, the first group, the oldest, that would be number 1. In Gedolos rounds, or maybe I meant the older one of my second wife, which would be who? Number 3. Not sure. Iktanish of Gedolos, or maybe it even meant number 2. Why? Maybe she's the younger one of the first group. She gdolim and agdolim sometimes because she's older than number 3, who's the oldest of the second group. In other words, when he said my oldest daughter could have been number 1, number 2, or number 3. Can't be number 4 because number 4 is not oldest in any way, shape, or form. Number 1 is the oldest of all. Number 3 is the oldest of the second group, and even number 2 is older than the second group totally. Kulan asuros. So they're all usher, they're all a suffix. Who number 1, number 2, 3, all masupak as possible קידושין, chutz miktam janas, except for number 4. Number 4 is certainly not married, but number 1, number 2, number 3, they're all possibly married. They're Rav Meir. So what do you see? It's קידושין she'ein masurim labia, right? You don't know who they are because they're all sisters, at least half sisters, right? They're all half sisters. Can't marry the Isser of erva applies half or full. If it's a sister or it doesn't make any difference, right? If a man has a half sister, it's still incest. So what do you see over here? קידושין she'ein masurim labia. Yet it's a קידושין. They're all usher. Proof to Abaye again on the Kasha and Rava. He knew originally. That's not the case. It's not like I'm marrying off my oldest daughter, and he didn't specify which one. He doesn't know. He knew which one he meant. Originally, he knew which one he meant. Later on, he got confused. A little dochak answer, right? But he knew originally. Hooker originally he knew. Then afterwards he got mixed up. But the original marriage was a good marriage. Now, where it's a suffix, so 1, 2, and 3, all of them have to get a get because we don't know who we married to. But it's not a case where he wasn't קידושין labia. When he did the קידושין, it was masurim labia. When they did קידושין, they knew who it was. He knew, the father knew who he married. I'm giving my oldest daughter, and that was קידושין labia. Then he forgot afterwards. They can Tani says Aini Yodea. I don't know. It's not that it's not known. It was known at one point. I just don't know. Shema Mina. What's the chiddush in that? What's the chiddush in this? If a man says I married off my daughter, and he knew originally which one it was. Let's say he knew it was number 1, but now he's not sure if it was number 1, number 2, number 3. Behind which door is your wife, right? He didn't know which one it is. So what's the chiddush? So of course, if you don't know which one it is, they're all suffix. You'll have to give a get out. What's the chiddush in that? Person wouldn't throw himself into a suffix. In other words, if he said the oldest daughter and he didn't give her a name, Rachel, Leah, Sprinza, Sarah, whatever, if he didn't give her a name, he wouldn't put himself into a suffix. He said the oldest one, he meant the oldest one, period, number one. Person wouldn't do that. In other words, you wouldn't be masupik afterwards. Even though he's originally, he thought he knew, but he could forget about it. Rashi says in the fourth of the wide lines from Rashi, Rashi said, the Paul beat of Pirk of Amr, Kulam Mutaras, Linasa Lacher, below get, Chutzman Agilosh Begolos. Rashi says, listen, he said the oldest daughter, you mean the oldest one, very simple. The person wouldn't put himself like the oldest one, maybe means the oldest of the second group, or the youngest of the first group, which is older than the second group, wouldn't put himself. When he says oldest, the person knows what he means. So he says in this case, when he's not sure who it is, what it is, a person wouldn't do that. When you said oldest, you meant oldest. Only number one needs a get. You're married to number one, and number two and three can get married without a get. That's Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Kamash Malon, the Tanna Kama doesn't hold that, right? He said a person wouldn't put himself in a shevshkim dolim lo dosh b'kulin. He says no. That the chiddush is that a person could be mesupik, and sometimes the person is not clear. That's why the lawyers make money, because they want to make sure everything is clear. Because if a person just rely on a person's own wits, sometimes he makes a mistake and he's not clear, and the deal is confusing. It's confusing. So therefore, that's the chiddush there. Mashma the the person would put himself in the suffix. In other words, sometimes he meant the oldest. He said the oldest, and he really meant number two or number three. Tashma another proof. Misha Kiddush Achas Mishtei Achayos. Here's again an example. Marry one of two sisters. He might say, the sisters can't give hadis about themselves, even if they think they know. Marry one of two sisters. Any days, she doesn't know which one he married. Again, he saw two sisters. Maybe they were twins. He married one of them. Now he's not sure who he married. Right? He's a kiddush. No sin get lazuba get lazu. You have to give a get to each one. But it was קידושין שאין מסורים לביולcha, right? Because he couldn't sleep with either one, because maybe she's a chosishto. Again, it's a proof to Abaye. You have to give it to both. According to Rav, you don't have to give it to either one. It wasn't a good קידושין. קידושין שאין מסורים it's not a קידושין. According to Abaye, it is a good קידושין. You have to get. So it's again a kasha on Rav, a proof to Abaye. The same thing. Originally, he knew which one. So originally, when he got married to her, was קידושין שנמסר לבia. Afterwards, he got confused. He doesn't know. It says he doesn't know who he married, but it's not that it wasn't known. It was known at one point. He just doesn't know now. What's chiddush there? A man marries one of two sisters, and he knew who he married. Now he gets them confused. They're identical twins, so he gets them confused. He doesn't know, so he has to give them both a get. Isn't that obvious? What's the chiddush there? Sefer is the chiddush. Is the sefer. What's the sefer? Mace. Let's say this guy Yankel married one of two sisters. So he doesn't know, right? Number one and number two. He doesn't know who he married to. He forgot. They look alike. He doesn't know which one. Let's say he dies now, no children. Mace. He has he has one brother. What does the brother have to do now? Could he do Yibam? He can't marry one of them because it could be it's a chos tukasa, which is an Isser Drabanan, right? Because he's supposed to marry the other one. So he gives chalitza to both. Can he give chalitza to one and pater himself up? No, because maybe his brother was married to the other one. So he gives mace below echad. He gives chalitza to both of them. Let's say he had two brothers. Let's say that Yankel now died, and he wasn't sure if he was married to sister number one or sister number two. And he has two brothers. So what do the brothers do? Right? One gives chalitza to one. The echad, one could give chalitza to both of them if he wants. But you give chalitza before, one gives chalitza to both of them. Or one could give chalitza, and the other brother could even make yibam on the other one. Right? He can't give yibam to the one that the first brother gave chalitza to because maybe she was the real wife. And once you give chalitza, you can't do yibam afterwards. But let's say one brother gives chalitza to number one gives chalitza to number one, and brother number two can give even yibam to number two. Why? Because if the first one that he gave chalitza to, that the first brother gave chalitza was the real wife, okay, so that's out. And what's her sister? Her sister's not in the picture at all. She's just a stranger. It's not yibam. It's kiddush, right? But he marries her. It means he can marry her, right? So he's miyab her with bia, okay, whatever, or he gives her mimer, which is also a קידושין then, right? Let's say they both made yibam, which they shouldn't have done, right? because maybe it's a chos gugasa, but it's a mokbim. Now chos gugasa only is a drop on it. And once you're married, you're married. So they can both marry the two. So now you have two brothers. We'll call them brothers number 1 and 2. It's Yankel died. Numbers 1 and 2 are married to sisters number 1 and 2. No problem with that. That could name the other. Dafka mechletz v'yivume. But you have to have chalitza before you do the yibum. You shouldn't do yibum first and then give place to the other one. As we said, you shouldn't do yibum first before you did chalitza on the other brother, on the other girl, right? Before your brother did chalitza on the other girl. Why? Because could be it's a chos kukaso. In other words, what happened? Yankel was married to one of 2 sisters. We don't know who he was married to. He died. Now he has 2 brothers. So one brother should do at least one chalitza first. Let's say the brother does yibum first. Let's say one of his brothers does yibum first. Well, it could be it's a chos kukaso. It could be that he's doing yibum or marrying this the sister of the one of Zakoki, which is Esra Rabbanan. If he did already, it's not the end of the world. Then the other brother should give yibum or chalitza to the other sister. Okay, that works. Tashma. So again, all these cases seems to be proof that the קידושין does work. He married one of 2 sisters. But he says, no, it's speaking of a Rav would give an answer in case. No. He knew who she was originally. Then he got confused. So the original marriage was Masur Labiyah. The first marriage was capable of being consummated. Then he got mixed up. So what's the Kiddush? Kiddush is the case of where he died and the case of Tashma. A little bit more complicated. Shnayim shekitzush de'achoris. 2 brothers married 2 sisters. 1 and 2 married 1 and 2. Right? 2 brothers married 2 sisters. And each one, now they got confused. Neither brother knows who he's married to. The only thing you can do is each one gives a get to both, because you don't know. You can't have one brother give get to both. Why? Because one of the sisters is married to the other brother, right? You don't know. All right, same So here's again proof that even though it's קידושין shein and masur and labiyah, it's a good קידושין. It's a proof to buy it. It's a proof against Rava. Same answer. Originally they knew. They were twins. They knew originally who each one married, but then they got confused. They can tani ein yodea. It's saying because it's ein yodea, he doesn't know who he's married to. But look, tani ein yodua. Shmami no see. Yachimami wants the chiddush in this. So again, the chiddush is the seifa. Seifa is for chalei. This is all part of the same Bryce or Mishnah in Yavamas. It says what? What's the chiddush? It's seifa is for chalei. Meisul zach zach. Okay, right. What happens is now I said. I'm sorry. I said the case wrong. I said 2 brothers are married to 2 sisters. It's not 2 brothers married to 2 sisters. It's 2 guys married to 2 sisters, because they're not brothers. They're not 2 brothers married to 2 sisters. I said the case wrong. Let's review it again. In the first case, it was one guy married to one of 2 sisters, and we said, okay, he originally knew, and he had one. He died, and he had 2 brothers. Now we're talking about not 2 brothers married to 2 sisters, but 2 people married to 2 sisters, and neither one knew who he's married to. Then why? Because they got confused. Okay. Originally, we thought that they never knew who they were married to, and that's a proof to Abai, because you need to get for both. According to Rabbi, you wouldn't need if they never knew who their wife was, you wouldn't need a get, because it's קידושין somebody's not קידושין. But the answer was, we said, okay, fine. Originally, they knew. Okay, and now, so what's the chiddush in that? If originally they knew and now they got confused, obviously each one has to give a get to both of them. My lemeimer, save it suchalei. Mace, if they die, ulezeach. Right? Here's the chiddush. Right? Each one, meis ulezeach, zechot shteim. So it should be meisu. Right? They died. Each one had a brother. Right? Meis ulezeach, zechot shteim. In other words, right? If one guy died and he had a brother, and the other guy also had a brother, right? Each one gives chalitza to both. What are you going to do? You don't know which one is married to whom. So each guy died and had one brother. The brother cannot do chalitza and yibum, right, to the 2 girls. Why? Because once he gives chalitza, it's a chos chalitzaso, which is also asur rabbanon, like a chos kushaso. So if each guy died and left one brother, there were no children, obviously, and left one brother, so each brother has to give chalitza to both of them. Okay. So again, meisul ze'ach u'ze'ach, zechot z'shteim. Each one has to give chalitza to both. There's no other option. Can you give chalitza to one? Maybe it's the wrong one, right? You don't know who he's married to, so you have to chalitza to both. Let's say one brother who died, because it should be meisu. In a way, it says in my Gemara it says meis. It's probably a misprint, I guess, right? Um, yeah. So that's going on. The Rashi on this page is going on the first case, not on this case. Where the Rashi that we need is going to be on the second case, meaning it should be Mesu. So let's say when these two guys died, right? They were married to two sisters, and they didn't know which one was married to whom, and they both died now. One guy died and had one brother, and the other guy had two brothers. Ha'echad, the one where he's the single brother, and that's the only brother, the brother, the guy who died, who left only one brother, again, he has to give chalitza to both, right? You can't, because he doesn't know who the wife is. He can't give chalitza and yibum, because once he gave chalitza, the other one would be achos chalutzaso. V'ashnayim of the two, echad cholitz v'echad yabam, right? They could give chalitza to both, but you could even have give chalitza one be yabam. So let's say they both got married after the first guy, the first brother, the brother of the first deceased gave chalitza to both. Then technically, if the other two of the two brothers of the second guy made yibum on both, because it's only in this rabbanim achosku kasa. Once they're married, they're married. Dafka mechutz varigumi. Now in this case, we say dafka if the first guy, in other words, there were two guys who guy number one and guy number two, and they married the two sisters, and then they both died. Guy number one had only one brother. He has to give chalitza to both, and he has to give chalitza to both before guy number two's two brothers did yibum. That's what it means. Dafka mechletz. Mechletz over here means the guy number one's single brother. He had to give chalitza to both. Then you make yibum. Okay, but let's say guy number two brothers, one of them made yibum on her, right? On one of the two, that's no good if no chalitza was done. Why? Because now she would possibly be a yavama l'shuk. Why? Because maybe she is the yavama of whom? Of the other guy. Maybe the one that guy number two's brother tries to do yibum on one of the girls before guy number one's brother did chalitza on both. So when he does yibum, it might be yibum on this woman who was married to guy number one. She's the Obama, and she's marrying this guy who is a stranger to her, right? That's the Obama l'shuk. So therefore, first guy number one who only had one brother, he has to give chalitza to both. So now there's no problem of the Obama l'shuk because they both got chalitza, right? They both got chalitza already. Now the only issue is, what do you do with the guy number two's? Guy number two left two brothers. So they should also give chalitza, but if one could give chalitza, one could give yibum. Why? Because the guy gave chalitza. If that was the right girl that he gave chalitza to, then the sister is no problem marrying the second guy. And if the one that he gave chalitza to was not his brother's wife, and the second one's doing proper yibum, no problem. Tashma, another proof. The Tani Daf Yomi. A man has 5 sons. This guy's got 5 daughters. Omar. Now the 5 sons are all of age. It means they're all bar mitzvah. And they said to their father, Dad, would you get a shidduch for us? You'll be a shliach, and we're appointing you to be a shliach. Remember, a man does not have the authorization to marry off his son to whoever he pleases, right? He can't marry off his son. His daughter, up until age 12, he has authorization. But the son, if he's not bar mitzvah, can't get married at all. If he's bar mitzvah, it's up to him. But in this case, the son said, Dad, please find the shidduch for us. Okay. And then this father of the boys, said, okay, one of my sons, who I'm a shliach for, will marry one of your daughters. Didn't say which one. Every one of these daughters needs 5 gittin. Why? Because you don't know who she's married. You don't know which one he married her off to, right? He says, one of your daughters is married to my son. Now we don't know which daughter it was, so they all need to get mace. Let's say echaman. Let's say one of the boys died. Now he may not even be the one who was married. We don't know which one of the boys was married, which one of the girls was married. Let's say one of them died. So all of the 5 girls need what? 4 gittin. Why not 5 gittin? Because one of them is dead. You can't give a get. One of the guys died, right? So So all the girls need 4 gittin from the remaining brothers and chalitza from one of them, because maybe they are maybe the brother who was married, the brother who died was really the one who was married, and they are the remaining brothers, the yavams of those. One of them has to give. They don't all have to give chalitza because the chalitza by one is good enough. But if they weren't married to those guys, if they weren't married to the deceased, they need to get from all of them. So what do you see up here? But it's a קידושין שאינם מסורים לביאה. Here you said, right, one of your daughters is married to one of my sons. Okay, and they all need to get. Why? Maybe you'll tell me the same. Rav will give it the same weasel the answer and say, well, originally they knew and then they forgot that we got mixed up. It says one of your daughters to one of my sons. He didn't say originally he knew. It says one of your daughters should marry one of my sons. That's very unclear. It's Tifta Rava, Tifta Kasha Rava, This is the case of the Al Kadam is the acronym, as we said, of the 6 cases in Shas where we pass like a Baya, not like Rava. In all cases of Machlokes in Shas, by Rava, we pass like Rava, except for these 6 cases. Rashi gives you the 6 cases, Yish Midas, etc. Right? All the cases of Rabbi Rava, the first one is Yish Midas, goes through, and the Kuf is our case of קידושין. Therefore, if a man marries one of 2 sisters, and he doesn't say which one, what's the halacha? If he marries one of 2 sisters, the halacha is that they're both mesupik. There's a marriage there. You don't know which one they both need to get. If he marries 2 sisters simultaneously, I'm marrying Rachel and Leah together with the same money. I'm giving money, or I'm marrying brother not. Then it doesn't work. Then a Mishnah said that's what. That's it doesn't. Since why? Since it doesn't work, but it doesn't work basachas. Even if he doesn't hold, according to Rava, our Mishnah that says that it doesn't work when you marry simultaneously could work because of one of 2 reasons: either because kol she'einu b'zeh einu basachas, that's Rava's svara, or also because it's קידושין שאינם מסורים לביאה. Because Rava, but according to the way we pass like a Baya, the קידושין שאינם מסורים לביאה is a good קידושין. The reason why it doesn't work in the Mishnah is because we marry it simultaneously. That's because of kol she'einu b'zeh einu basachas. But because of the concept of not Masur Labia, that wouldn't prevent the קידושין from working. The קידושין works, except they both need to get now because you don't know who they're married to. Pick them here tomorrow, Mitzvah. Have a good day, everybody. Moedim l'simcha.